Hey there, it's Chris from Good Roads, and in this video we're heading back out to my little backyard trails system to catch up on a project that I've been working on since June. In the last trails update, I showed off 2 new trails that I cut. Today we're going to be looking at one of them, and in that last video I asked you guys for name suggestions, and this one is going to be called Broken Bark. That was a name suggested by Goblin3690. I think it's an absolutely sick name, so thank you so much for the suggestion. I'll make up a trail sign for it as soon as I've got the tools back up and running in order to do that. So thanks again, man. Last time we took a look at Broken Bark Trail, it was unrideable top to bottom because right smack in the middle of the trail there was a big pile of logs and dirt, and that pile was a feature in progress. The trail system up to that point had a lot of really fun runs, and it had a couple hits, it had a couple jumps that you could go off of kind of in the progress of making your way down the trails, but there was no dedicated place where I could actually progress my freestyle riding, and I really want to progress. So the plan was to build a tabletop. I chose this area of the forest, this section of the trails, because it had a pretty clear run-in, and the area right below where I wanted to put the ramp was the most open, clear area in the whole woods, which means that there's tons of space to land safely. If I don't rotate all the way, or if I slip out, I've got plenty of room to correct before I get back into the trees. I'm getting older, and one thing that I've noticed is that injuries are taking a lot longer to heal, so even though I do want to progress, I want to make sure that I'm doing it safely. So I had a great location, I just had one problem. It was this: there was a giant rotting out log pile right smack in the way. But maybe, instead of something that was just in the way, I could make use of this big ugly eyesore to help me build the ramp that I wanted. You see, the soil where we are is incredibly rocky, and to dig up the amount of dirt that I'm gonna need for the ramp that I want by hand would be a nightmare. These logs need to get moved. I need material for my ramps, so maybe I can use these logs to build up a base or a foundation that I can put dirt on top of so that I don't have to move as much dirt. So I got started piling up the logs in the general shape of the ramp that I wanted. Every now and then I take a look at my pile and readjust it to make sure that I was getting the kind of shapes, angles, and dimensions that I was looking for. Underneath and between the logs there was a lot of punky soil where the logs had broken down partway but weren't completely turned into dirt yet. I knew this wouldn't compact well, so I couldn't use it for the surface of the ramp, but I used it to fill in some of the voids between the logs. And under that whole mess, there was actually some good soil that would compact well that I could use to make the riding surface for the ramp. It was just a matter of digging it up, moving it to where it needed to be, and shaping it out. That might have been a mistake. Now I have to try to get this whole thing topped with good soil so that I can shape and pack it. I had hoped that digging out the bomb hole or the transition into the ramp would give me more dirt than it did. I was being optimistic, but like usual, around here it was mostly rock. A quick test to see how the lip of the shape was throwing me, and it looks like we're headed in a good direction. But I did eventually get the whole thing covered and shaped out. All I had to do was wait for some rain so that I could give it a good pack. Or so I thought. It turns out I had way too much of that punky soil, too much organic material in the dirt, and it just would not compact. It was spongy. So I had to dig out the areas that were problematic, and man, did that leave me with a real need for more dirt. So I went around the property digging holes wherever I could find the good stuff and wheelbarrowed it back up to the ramp. I also tried bulking out the ramp using some of those rocks I dug up. I don't know if this is going to work, but I figure it's worth a shot. I just made sure to keep them down below the surface of the ramp. At this point, everything was bone dry, but at this point I had also bought a sprayer. So I sprayed everything down and gave it a good pack. And once it had dried, it was ready for testing. I rolled the lip and the landing a couple times to get a feel for it. What about this? This is the part. I'm not scared of this, I'm scared of this. This isn't the biggest ramp I've ever hit, but it's the biggest one that I've hit in more than 10 years, so I was feeling pretty nervous. But it was time to send it. All right. As my confidence grew, I was also working on lines into the ramp that allowed me to get more speed, because along with building my thighs back up, speed is the other factor that's going to allow me to really boost this setup. And some good news in that regard is that I'm still landing pretty close to the knuckle of the ramp, which means I've got plenty of space to land as I jump bigger and bigger as I get better at this. And for now, I'm pretty happy with this ramp. It's far from perfect, the landing is still a bit bumpy, and it's smaller than I'd like it to be. But I'm imagining that as the seasons progress and I grow in my riding, I can add more and more soil to the top of it to build it up, and the ramp can grow along with my progression. For now though, I've got a good, spacious tabletop with a nice smooth area of transition before the jump to get myself set up, and a lip that's nice and mellow but still has plenty of pop and tons of capacity to support my riding as I grow and progress. And on top of all that, I think this feature is going to work really well as a base for building ramps for snowboarding when the snow comes, so I should be able to use it all year round. So that's going to be it for this one. I'm so happy that I finally have a ramp that I can use to relearn some of the tricks that I used to know, and hopefully throw in some new ones too. I want to give a quick shout out to Pine Tree Skate Co. He's a really talented shaper out of Maine. He makes these boards that are just the coziest looking decks I've ever seen. And if you can't imagine what a cozy skateboard deck might look like, go check him out on Instagram. You'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But he also makes these really rad hats where the emblem on the hat is actually pressed the same way a skateboard deck is. I really love mine, and I kind of just wanted to show it off, so Thank you so much for keeping my hair out of my face during this build. I really appreciate it, dude. So if you want to keep up with the trail builds or any of the huge number of other projects we have going on here on the channel, why not subscribe? There's a lot more coming. If you like what we're doing here and you think you might like to support, why not check out the Patreon? We're trying to raise funds right now for a set of resin experiments to find the best materials to use for skateboard, longboard, and yes, even mountain board components. So that's very exciting. If you're able to pitch in even a little bit, you'd be helping out so much. And the patrons get an inside view, behind the scenes look at the work in flight here on the channel. They actually just got a preview of a really big project that I want to tackle for the trail system. Hopefully I can get to it before the snow comes. If you got any questions or comments, leave them down below. I do my best to get to all of them. I always appreciate having you guys along for the journey, so thanks for coming by, and until next time, I'll see you soon. That was pretty good. I did eat a fly though. Can't let anything distract you, you know?